Welcome to A Friday Reads, where I talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next, and I have accomplished my adult to-do list, which is great, which means after this, I will get to read, and it has me excited. I also want to watch TV, so But I've got knitting, I've got reading I want to do, I have shoveling that I don't want to do, but I can read while I shovel. That sort of thing. And first, normally if I acquire any books, I show it at the end of the video, but I'm just too excited about this, guys. And if you know, you know. I actually was complaining about this for a while, and this past weekend, yes, I believe, my mother and I, we went to a little shopping plaza, I think it's called Eaton or something, in Ohio, in Cleveland on the east side. There's like exit 29 on 271, there's like this shopping area. It has a Barnes & Noble, and it has an Apple store, and we need to go to the Apple store because of my mom's AirPods being broken. And apparently, to confirm what I already knew, it needed a 30-minute diagnosis. So we went to Barnes & Noble's, and we were just browsing, and I was good, and I didn't buy anything, but my mom saw how excited I was about this one book, so she got it for me. And so when we walk in the store, there's a big table of new releases, and look, guys, it's Demon Copperhead. It's decoed edges with French flaps, and I like the color, and more importantly, it's not a setback. For those who don't know, my only cover pet peeve are paperback setbacks, because I don't think they aesthetically add anything. If anything, especially for this cover, it takes it away. It just chops up this entire side, and I don't mind the original being black and white. I think the black and white grayscale is also beautiful. But they chop off this framing. This is a whole picture frame. And yes, it has the stupid stickers down here, but I think they're fine. They actually don't distract me from this cover. The stickers do not bother me nearly as much as a setback, because setbacks are also functionally how you hurt your books. You put it on a shelf, and the number of times that setback gets caught. So I'm just so excited that I have this. I almost wanted to start reading it because I listened to the audio primarily on my first read. So I'm really tempted to reread with my eyes, because that's how I am when I buy a book. But I'm just so excited about this. So yeah, because it was one of my favorite reads of last year, and I wanted a physical copy. But apparently everywhere but Barnes & Noble in the United States sells it with a setback. And just no. So into the reads. I'm currently in the middle of two things pretty heavily. I think one I might finish today after I'm done with you guys, and the other one is oddly paced, and we'll get into it. And then I need to think about my next read, which is always a struggle. This month feels like it's so long and so short, always all at the same time. I'm halfway through, and I feel like I've read nothing but also so many things. So we'll figure that out. First, this is probably the one I'm enjoying the most right now. It's the one I'm hoping to finish today, Usurpation. Oh man. Now, I do think I just need to get all of these. I really like how this feels, even though I typically have listened to the audiobook more than not for this series. I do like reading them as well. So I'm about half-ish way through. I'm 90-some pages in, and it's a 230-page book. So, doing pretty well. Will this sit here? Am I back in the days where I can put things on my shelves and they won't fall over? Always a chance. We'll put you there. This is gonna go poorly. It's gonna fall. So this is the third book in a huge thought experiment. In the first book, people go to this world called Pax, and they have to learn to survive there. And in the process, they interact with the very unique flora and fauna. This planet is very it is hard for humans to live here, but they form a symbiotic relationship with this kind of plant-like being, and it's so cool and stressful, and it's generational jumps. And it's one of my favorite things. I think something I love about this series, and truly, I love this. They're so short. I love a chunky book, right? We all know I love a chunky book. But for these thought experiments, I love how each chapter is long because they're kind of their own short stories. But then you aren't this book is 6 chapters, you could just be I'll read a chapter a day and I'll be done in a week. And it gives you so much. It's so rich and full of those thought experiments without being and not that Children of Time is bad, but Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky is kind of the example of the generational science fiction story these days, the modern version. And I just think it's too long. I don't think that story needed to be 400 plus pages. And so this being 200 some pages, almost a novella, I'm really loving the pacing of it. I'm really curious about it. So the first book, we go to Pax. The second book, Earth sends more people to Pax hundreds of years later, so they get to interact with basically a new society. And now at the end of that book, some of Pax was introduced to Earth, and now we're picking up, I think hundreds of years later, so where are we now? And this book has a lot to do with like robots and humans and this Pax organisms. And I don't really know what's happening. That's part of it. Like, there's just so much tension and intrigue. You don't really get main characters in these books, per se. Like I said, each chapter feels like a vignette-y short story, but they're all interconnected to tell the whole thought experiment. And I just love them. I just love them. So I'm really enjoying this, as I thought I would. So it's probably going to be my audiobook while I shovel, because it decided to snow today and yesterday. And I need to handle that. This other book I should be liking more than I am. And that is Exordia by Seth Dickinson. And just like last time, I'm going to put up an image soon. But just so you know, I'm about this far into it. Which, with these stupid Bible thin pages, I hate how these feel. They feel awful in my hands. It's like page 230 some out of 530. And I think my issue is that this is too long, I think. At least, I haven't felt like it's earned its length, and my issues are that sometimes I'm spending so much time discussing something that I don't want to be. So this has been broken up into acts. Act 1, great. Was very engaged. Act 2, fascinating. Loved it. And I think I've been bogged down in Act 3, which should be interesting. But I think it's going on too long. I think that's the problem. So Act 3 is trying to explain what happened before we showed up in Act 2. So there's like a time vacuum between Act 1 and Act 2. And when we show up in Act 2, weird things have happened, and we're like, what happened here? And Act 3 is supposed to provide those answers, which means, therefore, Angela should love this because she loves an info dump. I love an explanation. And when I get those, I'm really enjoying it. But it's also just really long, and in some ways I should like it because it provides character development, it provides me a more holistic view of everybody, but I just think we're spending too much time here, and the momentum is suffering. And I think this book it would be benefited by a consistent momentum. This book is about its mysteries. It's about the suspense. It's about the how are we going to get out of this? What's going to happen next? It has a lot going for it. But I'm being bogged down in I've been reading this for a while and I feel like I haven't gotten very far. And I'm scared to try the audiobook because I have heard the audiobook's a little weird from like many sources. Like, not like it's unlistenable. But first, I think the narrator might be British, which is fine. No one in this book is British. So to have a British accent for all the characters would be a little jarring for me. Especially because the international presence is such a big thing. We have more Americans than not, but then we have someone from Uganda, we have someone from China, we have someone who's Kurdish American. Basically, we have every accent. Like, the alien speaks with an Australian accent. We have every accent but a British accent. And so I think that would be jarring. But then my friend sent me a clip of the audiobook, and the cadence is weird. Like, I could probably get past the accent. The cadence is very weird. In the way that she chooses to pause in a sentence. Like, it's not like there's a comma there or anything like that. So I'm hesitant, but I might try eventually because audiobooks are something I use to help make fake momentum when I'm struggling with a book. But I feel like I should be really liking Exordia. There's a lot of weird, cool things going on, but I'm struggling because I'm currently in Act 3 feeling bogged down. And I shouldn't be, because this is a reveals chapter. I'm learning about characters. I'm learning about how we got here. And it's just, yeah. And also, I think it's a lot like if you saw Wicked, which I like the movie. And if you've seen the musical, you know at the end of Act 1 and the end of the movie is the song Defying Gravity, which is an objectively fantastic song. Nothing's objective in art, but there's a reason it's a beloved song, and that's because it is really good at what it does. Part of why it's good at what it does is it has amazing momentum and an amazing flow into the climax and the payoff. You're expecting it and you receive it and you're in it. The movie, for reasons, had to keep stutter stopping the song Defying Gravity, and it ruined the momentum. It didn't ruin the song, but I kept being like, and now we had to pause the phrase there. And now and that's how I feel right now in Exordia. It's like, okay, something tense is happening here. Things are happening. And now I'm over here, which is also interesting, but it's not as action-packed. So now I'm slowed down. Okay, getting into why we're doing this. Okay, now I'm in the flashback of this character to learn why they are the way they are. Okay, I'm sure this has context, but I was learning cool things over here. Okay, let's focus on him. All right, that's interesting. Oh no, back to the action-packed part. I'm being very whiplashed here, but it's not like as fast paced as I'm even describing it to you. So I don't know. A little bit of a weird pacing struggle. Content wise, interesting. Definitely interesting. I especially just had a discussion with the physicist and the mathematician, and I'm like, if you like when sci-fi writers play around with quantum, this could be fun. Or you might hate it, depending on how true to quantum you want them to be. But they're definitely having some fun times with quantum stuff. At least that's my current interpretation. So those are my two, main reads. I'm also, working on something very slowly in the background, but I'm working on it so slowly, I'm not going to just, mention it every Friday reads. Maybe I'll mention it in, my series update next week, just because, that seems like a more reasonable place to talk about it. But I do need to figure out, especially because I'm going to finish Usurpation soon. What is my next audiobook? And I have, a few options. Something I haven't tried yet is I want to read Age of Myth this month. It's a big book. It's not huge, but it's a 500 plus page fantasy book. It's big. I don't know if I'll like the audiobook. I don't know if I want to start with the audiobook or if I want it to be a physically read book. I haven't figured out how I want to approach that, but that's one option. I have a couple other audiobooks floating around in my Libby. I also need to remind myself that I'm going to be reading Onyx Storm soon. Mainly because all my in-person real-life friends are reading Onyx Storm when it comes out, to the point where my friend, sent me a few dollars to be buy the ebook, read it with us, because I'm usually a wait for the library person, because that's just what I do 99% of the time, and so that's probably going to happen, and so that'll probably be my physical read, although I could get the audio, which I didn't hate the audio when I read Iron Flame. But usually if I'm listening to the audio for a fantasy romance, that means I'm just there for vibes. I'm not having my best time. At least that's been my normal experience there. So gotta figure that out. I don't know. Worst case. Can always slot in a Verkos again. I'm never against that, truly. Never. Never, ever, ever. I love me a Verkos again. I do think recently another audiobook came up, but I can't remember what it was. So stay tuned. I'm going to need a new audiobook. Maybe I do slot in Exordia, which I do have access to. And maybe it's not as bad as I think it'll be. But it's just going to be super jarring to listen to a bunch of military commandos from the United States with a British accent. It's just going to be weird. My brain is not going to know how to process that. But I do think it's going to be more of is the cadence going to work for me or not? But that's his Friday reads, very chill, having a good time. We're probably going to finish Ted Lasso this weekend. We've been rewatching it. It's been a delight. And then, I don't know, I think Ryan and I have to decide if we're going to finish The Penguin or Shogun first. Because we need to start, finishing things that we just, accidentally stopped watching. Because we do that so much. We truly do. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, leave an alien emoji. That feels good for me. And otherwise, if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.